moved back to Newfoundland.
Now Drew became a Muslim and he returned to his hometown. Let us see if he faced any difficulties with his family.
Okay, so now I'm in Newfoundland, and I finally told my parents. I live with my parents again. I said, Mom and Dad, I become a Muslim. So my parents were very upset. I had a few copies of the Quran in my room. I actually had to hide those. My father would burn them. So he burned my prayer mat. It was very awkward around the house for many months, but we agreed not to talk about religion, and we pushed that away for a bit. So one of my trips out to Central, I went to my brother's house. My grandparents were living there at the time, and my brother called me into one of the rooms there, and he heard from a coworker that when I was in Ontario for those few months, I was Muslim. I was praying at work. So he heard this from one of his friends who I work with, and he questioned me on it. He's like, "What? You're doing some sort of weird thing at work? You're praying to what?" So I said, "Well, I became a Muslim," and I told him. And he's an evangelical Christian, and he got very upset. What's wrong with you, right? And I said, I looked into stuff. I started asking questions. I became Muslim. He said, "No, that's your problem, right? You're asking questions. You should not have been asking questions. You should just read your Bible and learn to be a better Christian." So I said, that's what I did. I read the Bible. I was trying to be a better Christian. This was the problem. Nobody could answer things. I found things that didn't make sense. So I found Islam, and he was very upset. He was yelling at me, and he called my grandparents in. My grandparents were always responsible for my religious education. My grandmother was a Sunday school teacher. And he pointed at my grandparents, right? And he looked at me, and he yelled and said, you look at your parents or your grandparents, and you tell them that everything that they taught you was wrong. I said, "What? I'm not going to do that." He said, "No, you tell him." He's yelling at me and cursing at me. So I looked at him, my grandparents, I said, I understand you guys raised me the best you could, but what you taught me about religion, I think you guys, you might have been a bit misguided, right? You misguided me. And he yelled, "You tell them what they taught you was wrong." It's like, okay, I didn't want to upset him, right? I didn't know if he was going to beat me up or not, my older brother. So I'm sorry, guys. What you taught me was wrong. I know you did the best you could, but I found a better way. I found Islam. At that point, he says, "Get out!" He's just yelling at me to get out of the house, right? So I was tears in my eyes, and I was crying, right? I'm like, "No, man," and he's just he's unreasonable. So I grabbed my bag and I started walking out of the house. My grandmother comes out, "No, you don't mean that. You don't mean that." So I didn't talk to him for weeks. It was weeks before I even talked to him. It was just a message on MSN, right? How you doing? It's been weird with him ever since. He's still a big avid Christian. He's actually got a record label now for Christian music. It's still weird with him. It's not as weird with my dad now. We have many conversations, but with my brother, it's still weird to this day. But it's worth it, right? Because I know what I'm doing is right. I know Islam is right. I pray that you will find this at least at some point.
God says in the Holy Quran, do people think that they will be left alone because they say we believe and will not be tested? Many companions at the time of the Prophet Muhammad were tortured by their families because they were Muslims, yet they didn't leave Islam. In this case, Drew faced difficulties as well by his family. However, he didn't leave Islam.
My grandparents, my parents, my brother, they're always trying to talk to me. Become a Christian. Be a Christian. And my only response can be no. And I try to help them. But if I became a Christian, they would be so happy. I mean, my grandparents, they would invite me back, and they might even throw a big party. Right? My brother will be a massive part of my life again. I wouldn't have to be awkward. I almost feel like an outcast to my family now. And there's a lot of topics I can't talk about. With my family. If I became a Christian, that would all be perfect. We don't have a close-knit relationship. I'll be happy-go-lucky again, but I can't do this. I'm a Muslim. I've been a Muslim now for 4 years, and I had to choose Islam, sadly, over my family, because it's not this life that we have to worry about. It's the hereafter. It's the next life that we're all trying to get to. This life is a test. So some people pass the test, some people fail the test. This is a test by God. And I really want to pass this test. This is more, this to anybody, this should be the most important thing. It should be pleasing God. This is what I want to do. And I keep trying to tell my family, and they don't seem to understand that. Be a Christian. And thank God, I'm a Muslim now, and I've been Muslim for 4 years, and hopefully, God willing, I will be a Muslim until the day I die.
We must worship God through the religion He wants us to worship Him through. And this religion is Islam. And that's what Drew is trying to do. God says in the Holy Quran, true religion in God's eyes is Islam.
If you're not a Muslim, then it's seriously something you need to consider. I've been into a lot of places. I talked to a lot of people who say Islam is evil. I grew up hearing Islam is evil, and now I'm a Muslim. Right? It's not because I'm stupid. It's not because I'm brainwashed. It's because I actually took the time to read about it. And I look at claims and they say, no, Islam worships a moon god. I look at things like this and I do the research and look it up. And you can see it is clearly not the case. If you buy into everything you read, then yeah, you're not going to be a Muslim. But you can't do that, right? I mean, if you buy into everything you read, then the moon landing's fake, right? I mean, there's certain things you have to use your common sense. You have to do research on and learn yourself. Take the time, do the research, read the points. When you hear something, don't just go, that's got to be true. Look into it. This is what I did, and this is what led me to Islam, and I believe in Islam 100%. I believe it's 100% correct. So I took the time. You need to do the same.
After hearing this story, I encourage you all to search for the right path as Drew did, and may Allah guide us all.